outpouring. That's what it felt like. Light and love just pouring through my heart. And I was absolutely shocked. What's going on? This is not what I expected. And so I promised not to drink for a week and went home. But it still played on my mind. And the problem was, I now knew God existed. But what is he like? Didn't know that. Thankfully, the next week, the question was actually answered. And we saw in that little video just before a little bit of the answer, I think. And I'm going to put up the verses that is from. This is from John chapter 1, 1 to 3, and then verse 14. John is one of Jesus' closest friends. When he was alive, he was a disciple, and actually one of the three closest. And John explains 2 years after Jesus is gone. He says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were made through him. A little bit later, he jumps up, because thinking, well, who is the Word? That's saying up. It's just a strange sort of idea to say, isn't it? He says this, and the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only from the Father, full of grace and truth. He's saying, actually, we've seen God. We've seen the glory of God in this person, Jesus. That's what he's saying. He calls him the Word because he's with God in the beginning, and interestingly, he's harking back to Genesis chapter 1, the very beginning of the Bible, where God speaks and the world comes into being, and he's using very much ideas from that the Word is, Jesus is that one that everything came into being through, the Word of God. So John is very strongly saying, there is someone you can know who God is. What I loved a little bit later on in his what he called Gospel, John wrote about Jesus, this happens. He records this occurrence. And Philip, who is another one of the disciples, said to him, that's Jesus, Lord, show us the Father, and it is enough for us. Show us God, and that'll do it. Do you ever feel like that? If we just see God, that will do it. That's all I need. Is it? Maybe, maybe not. Jesus replies and says to you, how much time am I with you, and you do not know me? The one who has seen me has seen God, Father. It's a pretty strong statement, isn't it? So this isn't just John talking about Jesus, this is Jesus talking about Jesus. Saying, actually, you've seen me, you've seen God the Father. That's an incredible statement to make, isn't it? Quite a big statement. Either he's quite delusional, or he really is, and he doesn't give you much choice here, does he? It's either yes or no, or you are it. No, you're not. Quite an incredible statement. How much time am I with you? Now, I've translated this, and it's quite literal. We tend to translate, how much longer have I been with you? How long have I been with you? And you don't know me. So you don't know me. Quite a strong statement. A bit later, the Apostle Paul, one of the great intellectuals of the early church, wrote this. I love this. This is from Colossians 1, 15, 16, and then verse 19. He says, he, talking about Jesus, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For in him all things in heaven and on earth were made. And in him God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell. It's a big statement, isn't it? You want to know what God is like. You want to know what he's like. He's Jesus. I know for me, a week after I had my experience of God on the road, I went on to camp. It was a Christian camp, but I didn't think it was going to be. It was quite strange. And I just thought it was a bunch of friends I knew through the church thing. I didn't understand that that's where God was. I didn't understand that at all. In fact, I thought He wasn't there. And I went along to this camp, and the guy got up and started speaking about Jesus and how he'd come to know Jesus and how he turned around his life. And as he's speaking, I'm feeling the same sensations that I felt the week before. Wow. Jesus, you are God. That's where the penny dropped for me. It's you. You are God. I know that's when I started believing. My faith journey started at that moment. And it's a bit of a different journey than most people I recognise. Most of my friends who were there didn't realise that I'd come to faith. They told me quite a bit later they were really worried about me coming on this camp because many of them had become Christian and were hoping to have a really good camp, and they thought I could ruin it. And little did they know, God had prepared it the week before. When I met God the week before, and I was going to come up, it was the easiest pickings they ever had. Just waiting to know God. I understand why they put it in the rules, but that's very sad. And I didn't actually tell anyone that I'd come to faith in God. It wasn't until a couple of weeks later that I was in the middle of uni, and my friends were standing around talking, and I came up to them, and I realised they'd been talking about me. You ever do that? Walk up to some friends and you go, "You've been talking about me, haven't you?" But they didn't. I didn't ask. And then I saw another old friend go further. And I said, "Guys, I'll come back in a second." Ran over to her. She asked me what I'd been doing, so I took out my Bible and started preaching to her and all her friends. And my friends were standing there looking, going, "What's he doing?" I just want to tell them about Jesus, because I've met Jesus and I've met life. That was it. So, now look at these questions. Does God exist? Well, Christianity, and certainly its Bible, say very loudly, yes, God does exist. They don't even actually ask the question, they just say He exists. What is God like? That's the actual important question. What is God like? God is like Jesus. He's like Jesus. So when I was preparing this, I thought, well, I have to go a little further than just saying God is like Jesus, because how do I know what Jesus is like? How do I know what Jesus is like and therefore God is like? How do you know that? Because anyone can say, yeah, Jesus is God. Just do then what you think Jesus is. That's not going to work, is it? And follow who you think Jesus is. And the truth is, I think a lot of people do that. But actually, that's not really searching for real answers to me. It's not going, actually, I want to know the answers. So there's a few other little bits that I think are important. Sorry. So what is Jesus like? The first thing you can do, certainly for those that here that may be new in faith, is there's things called the four Gospels. They're we call them books of the Bible. It's interesting, doesn't it? The Bible is a book, but it's got books in it. That's because the Bible is a collection of books. That's really what it is. And all these things were written at different times. And there's four of them that tell you about Jesus' life. And I think they're the most important things we should know. We should know constantly. Matthew, book of Matthew, the book of Mark, book of Luke, book of John. Most people know about these things, don't they? So you can learn about Jesus from the Bible, can't you? And to